And it's at this point that our skeptic may ask, why did this happen? Now, I want you all to think of a time that something that you would identify as either natural or moral evil. I want you to think of a time that it happened. And I want you to think specifically of a time that it happened, and because it happened, your life changed, and eventually you can see that it created the potential for a good. Did that make sense? That is to say, it happened, and it was evil. And we're not diminishing its quality of evil. It's still evil. And yet, because it happened, other things happened, and here we are today, and it's better, or it's at least good, or it's not the same as it was. Does that make sense? Are we tracking so far? Sometimes we're in that position to see that, right? I can think of examples in my life where I don't like that happened. I really don't. That changed my life. However, because my life changed, I eventually met Christy, you know? And anything that led me to Christy, I've just got to say, was a good thing. There are times that we can figure out, because X happened, Y eventually happened, and Y is a good thing. We, though, are not in a position to know all of the events, to know everything, and to know what resulted from everything that could have ever happened. I want to introduce the concept of the butterfly effect. You've probably heard this before. A butterfly flaps its wings in the Amazon and it creates a tornado in Texas. You've heard this, right? No? Okay. Well, it's also sometimes called chaos theory. Now, nobody is actually literally saying the butterfly caused the tornado. The point is, small changes over here can make huge changes way over here. It's sometimes called chaos theory. It's sometimes called other things like that. Once again, I want you to think of a choice you've ever made in your life where you could have chosen A, or you could have chosen not A. So not A could be B, or it could just not be A. You got it? How did that event change your life? There are tons of events where you chose A or you chose not A, and it changed your life. Are there times that you can't tell if it changed your life? Okay, so then, now that you have that, I want you to multiply that 1 times every choice you've ever made in your entire life. I don't know what number you're at, I know what number I'm at. And now, we're going to multiply that number again by every person who's ever lived on planet Earth. And now we're going to multiply it one more time by the number of choices that they've ever made. And I have got an astronomical number in my head. Do you also? Or did I leave you back at 1? It seems to me, just on the surface, that the majority of the DNA in this room must come from Europe. That's not to say that there's not other DNA present in the room, but it seems that the majority of the DNA in this room comes from Europe. What caused the majority of that DNA, the majority of the DNA here to get here? Here is not Europe. Now, I've only done limited genealogy, only grandparents and great-grandparents. I have at least 2 generations on every line in the U.S., but some go back much, much further into the old world, whichever old world I'm talking about. What do you think made my great-great-great leave and come here? Could it be because he was poor there and America was the land of opportunity? Could it be because there was famine and plague, war and disaster, evil there that drove him, her out? And eventually we get to here where I live in relative security, relative calmness, relative niceness. Could my life be better? Sure. Could it be worse? Sure, you know. But they experienced possibly evil, which drove them from their homeland. And yet today, I, their descendant, am living a pretty good life. I have to say, compared to other parts of the world, I'm living it high, you know? I shouldn't say that in Colorado. Now that's just one potential example. Did my relative ever know? When he got here, did he have to live in a squalor in New York? You know? I don't know. I don't know those details. Did she ever experience the good life before they died when they fled from their home country? I don't know. Am I living the good life? Yeah. So if you ask them, if we could resurrect them right here, and one of them could stand here, and you could say, "Hey, you experienced this evil, and it was horrible, and da 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 da. But your grandson, your great 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 grandson, is living pretty good. So was that evil worth it?" I mean, that's a hard question to ask somebody, right? And is it possible then that if that's happened in the past, it could happen again in the present? We could experience tribulation and hard times and evil today, and it could result in something better eventually. I'm going to introduce you to one new concept, and that is, it's the wonderful life effect. You've seen the movie. This isn't so much science fiction as this one is much more theology, but George Bailey is given the opportunity to see what life would be like if he had not existed. And you've seen the movie, right? And you've seen how many things changed because he existed. Well, that's the problem here. We can't tell how many things happen because I exist, because you exist. We'll never know how we affected other people, or how other people affected us, or how other people affected other people that affected us, or on and on and on and on, right? Finally, I want to introduce you to the concept About Time. About Time is a science fiction movie where a character has the ability to time travel. This is not a new concept. In fact, the idea that he explores is a concept right there in the pages of The Time Machine. Was that Orson Welles? I think Orson Welles? Right there in the pages of The Time Machine. The character finds that he can travel through time and he can change events. Sometimes he finds out that that because bad things happen, good things come of it. He also found out that sometimes if he changes the bad thing, then the good thing doesn't come about. Now, this is all in the realm of did it happen? Could it happen? Would it happen? It's all out there in the could've, would'ves, maybes, right? But I want to ask you, are these could've, would'ves, maybes, are they possible? They're very possible. And are we, temporal beings, limited in our geographical location, limited in our ability to understand how everything works and functions and touches everything else, are we then in a good position to tell God, this happened and it was evil and you had no right to do it? That's a pretty bold statement. Somebody could accuse me, the skeptic, our friend the skeptic, could accuse me of going way beyond anything that we can really understand. Anything. I'm trying to give one of those answers that blow your mind and try to shut you up, right? But what I've actually just done is referred to our own mythos. These things are in our common mythology. I'm calling our stories, our movies, our culture. I'm calling this our mythos. The same way, had we lived in Greek culture, we would have told the story of Hercules. We would have told the story of Zeus and stuff like that to explain how the crops live and die and stuff like that. We tell our movies. We tell somebody, you need to see that movie because it'll change your life. It tells you about da 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 da. You've been there, right? I mean, am I making this up? Or is this the way we do talk? Is this the way we do function? So, no. This is not far out there. And so when we can even grasp these concepts, the butterfly effect, the wonderful life effect, the it's about time effect, we see that we are not in a good position to determine if evil happens, can good come about from it, or can good not come about from it. Now, one further concept, if I can stretch your brain just a little bit further. Somebody could claim, well, what if so-and-so had died? Like in my example where I say that relatives of mine came from their country. What if they had never made it here and they had never died, or they had died and I never existed? Is every person, and I don't mean to make light of this, please don't go out of here thinking that Ozzy thinks lightly of this. Is every person that ever died in any tragedy, because they died, is it a lost cause? I don't think so. Because the Holocaust happened, we know the true evil and depravity that man is capable of doing. And from that, we have things in place to prevent another Holocaust from ever happening, right? Now, I'm not saying that if we resurrected a Holocaust victim and told them, your death means that nobody else will die in a concentration camp, that the Holocaust victim would say, oh, good. You know, I'm not trying to say anything like that. But I am saying, how many people remember D.B. Cooper? D.B. Cooper on Thanksgiving Day gets on an airplane with a briefcase. And he tells the person on the airplane with the briefcase, I've got a bomb, give me money. Could you be a D.B. Cooper today? No. Do you know why? Because you'll never get to the plane with the bomb in your suitcase. You're going to be stopped at security. We have security now because of D.B. Cooper. You know? Does that make sense? Does everybody follow that? I think D.B. Cooper is actually a good example because nobody actually, other than possibly him, died in that event.